The phone rang 17 times that night. 17 desperate attempts to find just one person who would listen. But sometimes, the difference between life and death isn't measured in hours or minutes. It's measured in the space of a single heartbeat. One final breath. One last chance to be heard. This is the story of Marcus Chen, a 24-year-old software engineer whose brilliant mind became his own prison. It's about the invisible weight of mental illness, the deafening silence of isolation, and how sometimes the people we love most become the very ones who can't see us drowning. But most importantly, it's about that 1 second, that final, crucial moment when everything could have changed. Marcus had always been the problem solver in his family. The kid who fixed everyone's computers, who got into MIT on a full scholarship, who landed his dream job at a tech startup before he even graduated. To everyone around him, Marcus was living the perfect life. But perfection, as Marcus learned, can be the heaviest burden of all. It started with small things: forgetting to eat, staying up all night coding, avoiding social gatherings. His colleagues noticed he'd become quieter in meetings, but they attributed it to focus. His parents thought he was just busy with work when he stopped calling as often. His girlfriend Emma assumed he needed space when he began pulling away from their relationship. What no one saw was Marcus sitting alone in his apartment at 3 a.m, staring at lines of code that blurred together like tears on a screen. They didn't see him Googling how to know if you're depressed, and then immediately closing the browser, afraid of what he might find. They didn't hear him talking to himself in the empty rooms, practicing conversations he'd never have the courage to start. The first time Marcus tried to reach out, it was to his best friend Jake during a casual lunch. "I've been feeling really down lately," Marcus said, pushing his sandwich around his plate. Jake glanced up from his phone and laughed. "Join the club, man. Work's been killing me too. Did you see the game last night?" The conversation moved on, and Marcus's words dissolved into the ambient noise of the restaurant. He tried with Emma next. During what would be their last dinner together, Marcus looked across the candlelit table and said, "I think something's wrong with me." Emma reached for his hand and smiled. "You're just stressed about the product launch. You always get like this before big deadlines. Remember when you thought you were having a heart attack before your thesis defense?" She was trying to be supportive, trying to remind him of his strength. But Marcus heard something else entirely. Dismissal wrapped in good intentions. His mother was no different. During their weekly phone call, when Marcus finally worked up the courage to say, "Mom, I don't think I'm okay," she responded with the same loving concern she'd always shown. "Honey, you're just working too hard. You need to take a vacation. Maybe visit us for the weekend. Your father and I worry you're burning yourself out." She meant well, but Marcus hung up feeling more invisible than ever. Each attempt to be heard felt like shouting into a canyon, waiting for an echo that never came. His co-workers saw his decreased productivity and scheduled meetings about getting back on track. His landlord saw his late rent payments and left increasingly stern voicemails. Everyone saw the symptoms, but no one saw Marcus. The breaking point came on a Tuesday in November. Marcus had been passed over for a promotion he'd worked toward for 2 years. Emma had ended their relationship the night before, saying she felt like she was dating a ghost. His parents had called to tell him about his cousin's engagement, another milestone that highlighted how far behind Marcus felt he was falling. That evening, Marcus walked to the Queensboro Bridge. He'd driven past it countless times, never thinking about its significance to people like him. But now, standing there as the city lights blurred below, it felt like the only place that made sense. He pulled out his phone and began making calls. His father didn't answer. He was in a meeting. Emma's phone went straight to voicemail. Jake was at dinner with his new girlfriend. One by one, Marcus worked through his contacts, each unanswered ring echoing the isolation he'd been drowning in for months. Finally, his mother picked up. "Marcus, it's late, honey. Is everything okay?" And in that moment, Marcus found his voice. Not the careful, measured tone he'd been using in his subtle cries for help, but raw, desperate honesty. "Mom, I'm on a bridge right now, and I don't think I can do this anymore. I need help. I really, really need help." There was a pause. 1 second of silence that stretched like eternity. Marcus could hear his mother's breath catch, could sense her processing his words. And then, instead of the dismissal he'd grown accustomed to, he heard something different. "Marcus, baby, where are you? Tell me exactly where you are. I'm getting in the car right now. Your father's calling 911. We're coming to get you. Just stay on the line with me, okay? I'm here. I'm listening. I'm finally listening." That 1 second of pause wasn't hesitation. It was recognition. It was the moment his mother truly heard her son. Not as the successful engineer who had everything figured out, but as the young man who was fighting for his life. The aftermath wasn't a fairy tale. Marcus spent 2 weeks in a psychiatric facility, followed by months of therapy and medication adjustments. The road to recovery was long and winding, marked by setbacks and small victories. But he was alive to walk it. Emma came to visit him in the hospital. She cried when she saw him, not out of pity, but out of guilt. "I should have listened," she kept saying. "All those times you tried to tell me I should have listened." Marcus squeezed her hand and told her something he'd learned in group therapy. "You can't hear what people don't know how to say. We're both learning." His parents moved closer to the city. His father, a man who'd rarely shown emotion, broke down the first time he visited. "I failed you," he said. "I taught you to be strong, but I never taught you that asking for help is the strongest thing you can do." They began having dinner together every Sunday, conversations that went deeper than surface-level catch-ups. Jake became Marcus's accountability partner in therapy. They met weekly, not just as friends, but as two people learning to really listen to each other. Jake admitted he'd been struggling too, hiding behind humor and busy schedules just like Marcus had hidden behind success and perfectionism. 6 months later, Marcus returned to work part-time. He advocated for mental health resources at his company, sharing his story with anyone who would listen. He learned that 3 of his co-workers had been struggling with similar issues, all of them suffering in silence, all of them assuming they were alone. The bridge still exists, and Marcus still drives past it sometimes, but now it represents something different. Not an ending, but a beginning. It's where he learned that the volume of our pain doesn't always match the volume of our voice, and that sometimes the people who love us most need us to speak louder, clearer, and more directly about our struggles. Marcus's story isn't unique, and that's perhaps the most important part of all. Right now, someone in your life might be making their own quiet pleas for help. They might be the coworker who seems more tired lately, the friend who's been canceling plans, the family member whose calls have become less frequent. The question isn't whether someone you know is struggling. It's whether you're listening closely enough to hear them. Because sometimes, the difference between tragedy and hope is measured not in grand gestures, but in 1 second of genuine attention, 1 moment of true hearing, 1 instant where we choose to see past the surface and recognize a human being asking to be saved. If you're watching this and you see yourself in Marcus's story, please know this. Your life has value, your pain is real, and there are people who want to help. You just might need to ask more directly than you think. And if you're watching this thinking about someone else, reach out. Ask the harder questions. Listen for what's not being said. Because in that 1 second before it's too late, everything can change. If this story resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories that matter, and remember, you're not alone in this world, even when it feels like you are.